Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining our Windsor Framework update for MAHs. Today's webinar includes a general update on FMD in Ireland, the impact of the Windsor Framework, and some information about MAH fees for next year. I'll pass you to my colleagues Colin and Leonie, who will be presenting today. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Colin McNamee. I'm the Operations Manager with the Irish Medicines Verification Organisation, and I'm going to bring you through a general update on FMD in Ireland. So some quick statistics just to give you an update. We currently have just over 2,000 end users connected to the IMVS, 1,898 pharmacies, 101 hospitals, 84 wholesalers, 2 other dispensing outlets, which in Ireland represent 2 dialysis clinics. And we have 364 MAHs registered with IMVO. Scanning activity, as you can see on the screen, has been steadily on the increase throughout the year so far in 2024. So we would have started the year with peaks in or around 1.8 million, and we're now averaging our high peak, which is the first week of the month traditionally, in or around 2 million transactions per week. Our alert rate has actually taken quite a bit of an increase in the last 4 weeks. This is as a result of one particular product which is coming into the market, having been decommissioned by mistake by the manufacturer prior to it coming into the market, and as a result, every pack is in a decommissioned state. So you can see there our end user alert rate for the last 4 weeks has been at around 0.1%. When we adjust and strip out those alerts caused as a result of an unlicensed exempt medicinal product or unlicensed medicine being scanned, our alert rate is steady in the 0.02 region. And certainly you can see there from the latest ENVO monitoring report, the data for August 2024, we're quite comfortably within where we want to be, at least where we are for our end user when we take out our unlicensed or exempt medicinal products. It's something that we're working on to have that alert rate further reduced. Summary of alerts. As I said, the baseline end user alert rate is consistently in the region of 0.02%, as avoidable alerts relating to FMD software and scanners are now uncommon in Ireland. Issues driving the alert rate include, as I said, exempt medicinal products arriving in a decommissioned state into Ireland, borrowings between pharmacies and hospitals as a result of shortages. Our community pharmacy population in particular do everything they can to ensure that their patients receive the products that they require, and as a result, sometimes will borrow packs that have been previously decommissioned from other community pharmacies or from hospitals. Sometimes our wholesalers can cause some problems around hospital aggregation, but we work with our wholesalers to flatten out those alerts. Spikes do sometimes happen as a result of MAH procedural errors, and we also see alerts generated as a result of transactions on Irish packs scanned in other markets. We are taking all steps possible to investigate these alerts, but obviously one of the gaps we have at the moment is that some end users, which is mostly end users, but in some instances MAHs, don't provide us with the feedback that we need as a result of identifying root cause of their investigations, which we require to definitively ascertain a root cause and close the alert. So we would ask our MAH community to assist us when they can, particularly when we're dealing with alerts in the A2, A3 region, when we know there could be an issue around late batch upload or missing serial numbers. NMVS Alerts, which is our alert management system, and again, we would urge you to use that system to communicate with us. We've had a good increase in 2024 in the usage of NMVS alerts by both MAHs and users, particularly in our community pharmacies, to give feedback on their alert investigations. And it is our hope to connect to the EU Alert Management System Hub in 2025. Just very briefly around the EMVS. The EMVS, including the Irish Medicines Verification System, continues to perform well. We've had no significant incidents or downtime. There's been 2 releases of the IMBS in 2024, release 14 in May and release 15, which will roll out in the first days of November next. So that's a very quick overview of what's happening in the broader FMD landscape in Ireland. I'm now going to hand you over to our Chief Executive, Leonie Clark, who will talk you through the key messages that we want to talk to you about today around Brexit and the Windsor Framework. Thank you all for your attention.
Thanks, Colin, and good afternoon, everyone. And we're pleased to have so many people on the call, the 75 participants, and pleased to see so many old names and faces amongst you. So we just wanted to give you a bit of a background to where we're at with FMD before we get into the meat of the presentation today, which relates to the Windsor Framework. So I'll just move on to the next slide. So I suppose in order to fully understand the Windsor Framework, we just go back a little bit and look at what was Brexit all about from an FMD perspective. And just to remind ourselves what Brexit was, the UK left the EU on the 31st of January 2020, and EU law continued to apply in the UK until the end of that year under transition period. What happened then was, as part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement, there was what was called the Northern Ireland Protocol, and this was all about avoiding a hard border on the island of Ireland, recognising the unique status of Northern Ireland vis-a-vis UK and Ireland. And arising from the Northern Ireland Protocol, Northern Ireland, or NI, remained in the EU's regulatory system for medicines after Brexit was fully completed at the end of 2020. So the rest of GB, mainland, England, Scotland and Wales, it left completely, but Northern Ireland remained in the EU's regulatory system. So from an FMD perspective, the impact of Brexit was that FMD was discontinued in GB, so Great Britain. So by that, as I say, we mean England, Scotland and Wales on the 1st of January 2020, and all GB end users were disconnected from the national system at that point. FMD remained mandatory in Northern Ireland, and the UK National Medicines Verification System, or NMVS, it became known as the UKNI system. The UK NMVO became, SecureMed became then the UKNI NMVO, and for example, they set up an office in Belfast to reflect the fact that they were now operating solely in Northern Ireland. Data upload by manufacturers, and we use the term in the EMVS world, OBPs, or onboarding partners, to talk about those who upload the data. So data upload by OBPs to the UK system was optional for packs intended for sale in GB, but mandatory for packs intended for sale in Northern Ireland. And what we've seen over the last number of years is that in practice, most continue to upload the data for all the packs going into the UK, regardless of where in the UK they were going. So from our point of view, what that was useful was it meant that if we had UK single market packs that found their way into EEA markets, so obviously FMD applies not only in the European Union, but also in the 3 countries that are part of the European Economic Area, which is Norway, Liechtenstein and Iceland. So we talk about EEA markets to cover all of that. So any UK packs in EEA markets, we could still decommission them via intermarket transactions against the UK system, because, as I said, the data for the vast majority of UK packs was uploaded to that system. Next slide, please. So the Windsor Framework then came along in March 2023, and this is very much a political agreement. There was a lot of political pressure in Northern Ireland, particularly from the Unionist population, about the fact that the Northern Ireland patients weren't getting the same access to medicines as patients in mainland Great Britain. So the Windsor Framework was adopted between the UK and EU. It adjusts the operation of the Northern Ireland Protocol in several areas, including medicines. So what it does, it aims to ensure that people in Northern Ireland have access to all medicines at the same time and under the same conditions as the rest of the EU. And it includes safeguards, mostly labelling, to ensure that UK packs don't enter the EU single market. From an FMD perspective, what happened was the regulation that it encompassed the Windsor Framework, it amended Directive 2001/83. So Directive 2001/83 is the key piece of pharmaceutical legislation in Europe, and it gave legal effect to this document regarding, to the Windsor Framework regarding medicines. It provides for an effective date of the 1st of January 25. So this was also written in the Windsor Framework Agreement itself, and it is subject to the UK providing certain written guarantees of compliance with the Windsor Framework requirements by that date to the European Union. Now, we were on a call yesterday where this was discussed, and our understanding and the general expectation is that these written guarantees will be given on time and that the go live date for the Windsor Framework will be the 1st of January 25. Okay, so looking at then what's the impact of the Windsor Framework in the UK, and you might say, why are we explaining that? Because, from an Irish perspective, why is that relevant? It's because you need to understand what's happening in the UK to have some sense of what it means in Ireland, the knock-on effects. So in Northern Ireland itself, FMD will basically be disapplied from the 1st of January. UK system is going to be connected from the European hub at 2300 hours on the 31st of December. Obviously, that's 0000 Central European time. The UK end users will be disconnected from the system. So even if they wanted to scan, they won't have any capability to do that. All the data in the UK system is going to be scrubbed permanently and irretrievably. So it's going to be completely gone, all that data. All the MAH agreements and end user license agreements will be terminated by SecureMed. The UK system will be closed down and SecureMed UK will be liquidated. So it's expected, I think that'll happen in Q1 next year. So in terms of then packs placed on the UK market post-Windsor Framework, as I've mentioned before, they have to be labelled UK only. Now, the MHRA has issued a lot of guidance in all of this, and we're just reproducing because we get some questions about this, but really we're not giving regulatory advice, to be very clear on what's happening in the UK post-Windsor Framework. We're pointing you to where that information is and giving you some extracts from that guidance, but it's really a matter for yourselves in terms of your own operations in the UK to consult the relevant MHR guidance and make sure you understand it and how to comply with it. So in relation to safety features, we're interested obviously what it says about that. And what it does say is that UK licence pack must not carry EU FMD safety features. This means that any 2D barcode that is present if scanned should not be recognised in EU repository systems, and any such code present would need to be fully removed or covered. Now, in discussions with our UK colleagues yesterday, what we understand is that the fact of disconnecting the UK system from the European hub will effectively render all packs in the UK completely unknown to the European system. So this will meet this requirement. So they can still carry a barcode. The barcode may have been on the pack before the Windsor Framework, but because the system is now going to be completely disconnected, there's no capability in EMVS to actually recognise that pack because there's no data for it. Companies in the UK are going to be encouraged to continue using anti-tampering device. And then the other thing that's been stated is any stock in existing packaging already placed in the market, a QP release prior to the 1st of January, may be supplied until its expiry date. So that means, for example, the UK only requirement won't necessarily appear on UK packs from sometime as existing stocks work their way through. Now, we know that that guidance says that people can put UK only on since, I think, the middle of this year. So, we just have to wait and see what it looks like in terms of these packs ending up in Ireland. Okay, so the impact of all of this from on the joint EU EEA, I'm sorry, that should actually be UK EU packs. So joint EEA UK packs may not be placed on the market in the EEA or the UK after the Windsor Framework takes effect. So that basically means, in practical sense, in Ireland, no more joint UK-Ireland packs or no more UK-Ireland multi-packs. What is possible is shared inner packaging components may continue to be used. So the outer packaging must be distinct and separate, but you can use shared inner packaging. So multilingual blister foils and joint leaflets, provided the relevant UK and EU marketing authorisations remained aligned. So if, for example, you want to use the same inners, blister foils in Irish and UK packs, you need to ensure that the UK PL and the Irish product authorisation are aligned. In the case of packs released prior to the 1st of January, so this would be, for example, existing UK-Ireland joint packs, these can remain in circulation until their expiry date, according to guidance issued by both the HPRA and the MHRA. We don't anticipate any problems with these packs being scanned after the 1st of January. And the reason for that is if it's a joint Ireland-UK pack or say joint Ireland-Malta-UK pack, the data will have been uploaded to all the markets. So in the case of a joint pack with Ireland, that data will be in the Irish system. We have had to make some technical changes to the system to prevent synchronization issues. And what I mean by that is if at the moment you have a joint Ireland-UK pack and that pack's decommissioned in Ireland, the system has to tell the UK system to mark that pack as decommissioned so that you don't have different statuses for the same pack. And what we're doing now is we're just making changes to make sure that when the system, you decommission that pack after the 1st of January, it doesn't go looking for the UK system to try and decommission. It'll know that the UK system is gone, so there won't be any problems with retries and timeouts. So that'll fix that problem. OBPs have to remove GB from product master data. So for every product that's in the system, there's what's called product master data, which is at a high level, the details of the product code, the manufacturer, the MAH, the markets in which it's sold, etc., etc. And that GB has to be removed for all the packs that are shared jointly with the UK at the moment to prevent upload failures from the 1st of January 25. Now, just to clarify, in the EMVS, GB is the country identifier used for packs going to the UK, so it's a little bit confusing that. In the meantime, so I go back to that slide, please, Colin. I just want to finish it out. In the interim, until companies have removed GB from the product master data, you can actually amend upload software to prevent retries when the initial upload attempt has failed. So that's something that the serialization teams in your companies, those who are responsible for data upload, should be looking into to make sure all of this has been dealt with. And MVO has communicated extensively with OBPs about this. So this is something that should be under control within your company. Okay, so the next area where we see an impact of the Windsor Framework is UK single market packs in circulation in the European Economic Area. So what these can be brought in under various articles of Directive 2001/83. So Article 5.1 is basically the basis for the exempt medicinal product scheme in Ireland. It's the most widely used basis on which these products are brought in here. Article 126A refers to the ability to give to authorise UK packs and packs from other markets to give them an actual, some sort of authorisation locally. And Malta, for example, would rely fairly heavily on that one, where it's relatively unusual here. So the reason we have these packs brought into EU markets is often because we have shortages locally and other local supply issues. You know, there may be some sort of a temporary manufacturing problem or something happens and packs are brought in on an interim basis to address that. So these are UK single market packs. These are quite common in Ireland. The big issue we have with all of these is that we've already noted that these packs can continue to carry 2D barcodes. So they're still going to look like packs that can be scanned. And what we see is if people continue to scan these packs, this is where the problem arises. So if the barcodes were taken off the UK packs, then we probably wouldn't be having this webinar at all, because there would be no problem. The UK packs would simply have no barcodes and they wouldn't be scanned. But the problem we have now is these barcodes will be there and there is a high likelihood that they will be scanned. The difficulty is that since Brexit, if these packs were scanned generally, they were fine because the UK system was connected, the data was there for most of the packs. This option is now gone because there's no longer a UK system, so you can't verify and decommission them via intermarket transactions or IMTs. And from the 1st of January, every single UK single market pack with a 2D barcode that is scanned anywhere in the European Economic Area will generate some sort of exception or alert. And on the next slide, we set out the different types of scenarios that arise. So there's various different scenarios will arise depending on whether the system recognises the product code and or the batch that we're talking about. So even after the UK system is disconnected, a copy of the product master data will sit in the European hub, in the EU hub. So this is why we're getting different responses. So I'll just go through these one by one. If the product code and the batch ID are known to the IMVS, i.e. the pack data was uploaded to the IMVS before the 1st of January 25, what's going to happen is the end user, and by end user we mean pharmacy, a hospital or wholesaler, they connect to the IMVS. When they scan it, they'll get what's called a market not available exception. So that's new. If the product code is known, but the batch ID is unknown. So for example, the product was previously set up in the IMVS, but the batch data was not uploaded. We're going to get a batch not found A2 alert. So that's a full-blown alert. So an exception is slightly different to an alert in that the legal obligation to investigate doesn't apply to the same extent to exceptions as alerts, but they still need to be looked at. If the product is not known to the MBS, so it just simply doesn't recognise the product code, and this most likely will happen where you have new products coming on stream in the UK after the 1st of January, and then they somehow end up in European markets, and then the system simply won't recognise them. So we'll get what's called a product code unknown exception. This is the type of exception we already get, say, for example, US products, Australian products, Swiss products, medical devices with 2D barcodes on them. That's the response that you'll get when they're scanned. The other scenario we see happening is the 2D barcode may not contain all the data elements, so it may not have a serial number in it. And we have had indications, we have been asking, and we're certainly interested to hear your own feedback and your company's plans. We have certainly been made aware by some companies that they do intend to keep the barcodes on the packs in the UK, and some of them don't intend to put serial numbers into them. And there's a number of reasons why they intend to keep the barcodes on the packs in the UK. Number one, the UK at the moment will not have a medicines verification system after the 1st of January, but there is legislation in place in the UK that allows for the setting up of a new system. And it's very similar in terms of this description of the barcodes and the safety features to the EU system. We also know companies use the 2D barcodes for their own internal tracking purposes in many cases, and also this heavy reliance on these barcodes in things like NHS scan for safety projects. So the data is actually scanned into NH systems and other systems. So for all these reasons, and also the difficulty of re-engineering packaging line to take off barcodes for the UK, a lot of companies we understand are planning to leave them there for now. So hence why we're talking about these barcodes being scanned. So where you've got a 2D barcode with no serial number in it, the response will depend on how the FMD software is configured and whether the scan is transmitted to the NMBS. So it might well be that the FMD software in the pharmacy simply says, okay, we just don't have all the data elements and we're not going to send the scan to the NMBS to ourselves. And it may be that it sends the scan and then we send it and we say, well, it's missing. So our system will send back an exception. But one way or another, there'll be a response back to the pharmacy. And then finally, in the case of recalled, withdrawn or expired packs, there's no pack state information available now that the UK system has been disconnected, and the scan may not indicate if the pack is recalled, withdrawn or expired. Now, expired it may do. The local FMD software may pick that up, but there will be no capability for the system to know if the pack has been recalled or withdrawn. So it could have been withdrawn in the UK or recalled, but that won't be known if that pack is scanned here in Ireland or any other European market. Okay, so there's been a lot of activity to prepare for the Windsor Framework. There's been, as I've alluded to already, technical changes to the MBS to prepare for the disconnection of the UK system, which will be completed very shortly. We have we've developed this new bit of jargon, the NIXIT working group, so NI Exit working group made up of ENVO and NMBO personnel, and myself and Colin sit on that group. And we're overseeing detailed preparations, including managing communications to OBPs who upload the data to the EMBS. And we're also looking broadly around making sure all the NMBOs across Europe are considering, is this going to have an impact on their markets? Obviously, ourselves and Malta have the biggest impact, but there are other countries who would have fairly substantial numbers of UK packs coming into the markets to meet shortages. ENVO has issued a Q&A document, which we have linked there for you, and I know a number of you are already familiar with that. And then the Windsor Framework will be one of the topics covered in a series of upcoming changes, workshops for OBPs that ENVO will be running. And they'll also be running for your connection providers in October and November. So if you want any more details about those, just pop a note to us and we'll send you the details of those for how to register. So in terms of how we've been doing in Ireland to prepare for all of this, so this is a busy slide because there's been a lot going on. And it's important to remember medicine shortages continues to be a big problem here, and many medicines are sourced from the UK as exempt medicinal products, as I've mentioned already, under Article 5.1 of Directive 2001/83 EC to meet patient need. We've worked very closely with the Department of Health, the HPRA, the PSI, who's the pharmacy regulator, and we've also worked very closely with colleagues and other NMBOs and ENVO over the last 18 months to try and understand what the FMD impacts of the Windsor Framework will be, and also then to see where we can mitigate. As I've mentioned, some of the issues identified have been resolved via changes to the MBS. However, we cannot prevent UK packs generating alerts when scanned from the 1st of January 25 onwards. It's just not possible. So for that reason, we will be communicating extensively with end users, so pharmacies, hospitals and wholesalers over the coming weeks to explain the following: that all scans of UK packs with 2D barcodes will generate an alert or an exception post Windsor Framework. what to do next when they get that exception alert. And we will also explain the new market not available exception. And this advice has been aligned with the HPRA, the PSI, and the Department of Health. So there's a single set of messaging. And why this is happening, because I suppose our concern is now that and you've seen the good news story that Colin has presented to you of things really improving in terms of compliance rates and scanning alert rates coming down. And now potentially we're going to see large numbers of extra alerts and exceptions generated. We need people to understand that this is not something we've been able to control. It's the result of political agreement. We've done our best to try and minimise the problems, and then we're going to give them advice on what to do. We are obviously planning for extra support calls and emails to our service desk at the beginning of January, and I'll come back to that later on. And then the HPRA has published a Q&A in the Windsor Framework to assist manufacturers, MAHs and wholesalers. So just to give you, so you know what advice has been given to Irish end users. So from the 1st of January, the only way to avoid an exception or alert with UK packs is not to scan them. So we're telling them not to scan them. And again, this is all aligned to HPRA, PSI and Department of Health. If you inadvertently scan a UK pack, you will get an amber or red alert message on your FMD software. And the reason we use amber alert, it's to do with whether it's an exception or an alert. Notwithstanding this, you may supply the pack unless you have overriding concerns that a falsified medicine is involved or believe the pack has been interfered with. And that goes back to the pre-FMD days where pharmacists just looked at the pack and used their own knowledge of what to expect the pack would look like. And equally, if the pack has been tampered with. We also flag the pack that you may supply the pack unless it's expired, because again, your FMD software may not be able to flag this, where up until now, they've always been able to rely on the FMD software to tell them that a pack is expired, which is a very useful safeguard. They're reminding them again to check the anti-tampering device, and if there's any reason to believe the pack's been interfered with, please report this to the HPRA as a product quality defect. Do not supply the pack. So as I say, that advice has been aligned with all the relevant bodies. So just some useful information here. If you're interested in the legislation behind all of this, the Commission Delegated Regulation Safety Features is the first reference there. We've given you the ENVO NIGSIT Q&A. Also given you links to various MHRA guidance documents, and the last link there, that the MHRA has been running webinars on the Windsor Framework, and the recording of their last one in September is up there. We have the link to the HPRA Q&A document. If you have any further questions, if you send them to brexit@hpra.ie, the HPRA will update them as necessary. And certainly we have flagged a number of queries we've had in back to the HPRA, and they have dealt with them in the questions. And for those of you who are active in Malta, our Maltese colleagues have given us the link to their local guidance. So NCA's National Competent Authority website. Okay, so in terms of what support is available from ourselves in relation to all of this, so our service desk, as I mentioned, it's contacted by phone and email, can also be contacted by info@imvo.ie and alert.support@imvo.ie. Our opening hours are very extended, so we're open weekdays 8 to 8, Saturday 9 to 6, and Sunday and public holidays 11 to 6. That will include New Year's Day. So if things start to get hairy on the 1st of January, our service desk will be open and will be equipped with scripts to understand what's going on and to explain to pharmacies what to do. And then just in general terms, if you've got any queries about your MAH account registration invoices, just use mah@imvo.ie. Okay. So there's other bits and pieces there. Our website, we have guidance videos on a few things, including NVS alerts. And if you ever want to check our live status, it's available at the link there. And actually it's available through our website as well. So that's useful. It's updated every 10 minutes with the live status of the IMVS. I think one thing to point out, the IMVS, thankfully, has been very stable and there's very little downtime. Like we're, comfortably well above our KPIs in relation to all of that. So that is going very well. So just when we have you here, we just want to just briefly remind you about fees for next year, because it's that time of year again, we start to think about getting, as you know, IMVO's funded primarily by fees charged to MAHs. So next slide. So our fee for next year has been set at €6,000. That's already been notified to everyone. We do offer rebates for MAHs with low turnover, less than €100,000. So if you're in that category, you need to make a new application every year. Our invoices are issued in January. They're due for payment by the 9th of February. We will be contacting all of you to get your contact details and request PO numbers in November, because we find that it seems to make the invoicing process go more smoothly for everyone. And if you're interested in fee rebates or think you might be eligible, that email will include details of how to apply. And then just to reiterate, if you need to change your MAH, you need to register a new MAH during the year, contact MAH at IMPO for guidance and process and the fees payable. And then there's just some other general information links there for you. So I think that's it. Yes, so with that then we'll stop the recording and we'll move into the Q&A